Let me ask you something. How many problems in your life were created not because you did something wrong, but because you said something extra? Think about it. A sentence spoken in anger, a secret shared with the wrong person, an opinion given where silence was needed. And suddenly peace is gone. Relationships are damaged. Regret becomes your companion. In 2026, if you want power, respect, and inner peace, learn this rare skill. Keep your mouth shut. Let me tell you something very honestly. Most of the problems we carry today were never meant to exist. They were born the moment we opened our mouth without opening our mind. We assume that every thought that enters our head deserves a voice. But that is not intelligence. That is impulse. The human mind produces thousands of thoughts every single day. Some are wise, some are emotional, some are angry, some are fearful, and many are simply useless. If we start giving words to all of them, we don't become expressive, we become careless. There is a beautiful difference between thinking and speaking. Thinking is private, speaking is public. Once a thought becomes a word, it no longer belongs only to you. It travels, it affects others. It comes back to you in ways you never imagined. That is why the wise pause before they speak. Not because they lack confidence, but because they respect the power of words. Think about the last time you spoke in anger. At that moment, your heart was heavy, your mind was loud, and your patience was weak. The words came out quickly, and the regret came even faster. Anger lasts for minutes, but words spoken in anger can damage relationships for years. If that thought had remained inside your head for just a little longer, your life might have felt lighter today. Not every truth needs to be spoken. This is a very hard lesson to learn. We feel that being honest means saying everything we think, but wisdom teaches us something deeper. Honesty without sensitivity becomes cruelty. Just because something is true does not mean it is necessary, and just because it is necessary does not mean it is necessary right now. Silence is not suppression. Silence is selection. You are choosing which thoughts deserve to become words and which should die quietly in your mind. This choice is what separates maturity from immaturity. A child says whatever comes to the mind. An adult understands consequences. In 2026, the world is louder than ever. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a platform. Everyone feels the pressure to react instantly. Messages, comments, replies, everything demands speed. But wisdom has never been fast. Wisdom has always been slow, calm, and deliberate. The person who pauses in a reactive world automatically gains control. When you speak less, you start observing more. You notice people's intentions, not just their words. You notice patterns, not just promises. You begin to understand that many arguments are not about truth, they are about ego. And ego only grows when you feed it with words. There is also peace in not explaining yourself all the time. Over-explaining comes from the fear of being misunderstood. But the truth is, people who want to understand, you will never need too many words. And people who don't want to understand, you will never be satisfied, no matter how much you say. Silence saves you from wasting energy on the wrong audience. Many people lose respect not because they are wrong, but because they speak too much. When words are rare, they carry weight. When words are cheap, they lose value. Think of someone in your life whose words you truly respect. You'll notice something interesting. They don't talk unnecessarily. When they speak, people listen. That is not accidental. That is discipline. Silence also protects your future. A casual comment can become a permanent record. A joke can become a misunderstanding. A moment of oversharing can become lifelong regret. The world may forget your silence, but it never forgets your words. Learning to hold back is not about fear, it's about foresight. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you no longer feel the need to fill every silence. You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop defending every opinion. You stop reacting to every comment. And in that quiet space, you find clarity. You realize that you don't have to attend every argument you are invited to. Your mouth is a gatekeeper. Every word that leaves you either builds your life or breaks it. Once you understand this, you naturally become careful. You don't rush to respond. You don't rush to judge. You don't rush to speak. You let thoughts mature before turning them into words. So remember this simple truth. A thought kept inside can still be corrected. A word spoken aloud cannot be taken back. In 2026, if you want less regret, more respect, and deeper peace, learn this quiet skill. Not every thought needs a voice. Most regrets in life don't come from the things we didn't say. They come from the things we said too quickly. If you sit quietly and reflect on your past, you'll notice a painful pattern. The friendships that broke, the respect that slipped away, the opportunities that vanished. In many of those moments, the damage was not caused by action, it was caused by words. One sentence spoken at the wrong time. One comment said without thinking. One emotional reaction that felt right for 5 seconds and wrong for 5 years. Regret is heavy because words are irreversible. You can apologize, you can explain, you can justify, but you can never erase what was heard. Silence, on the other hand, leaves no scars. Silence gives you a second chance. Words take that chance away. Human emotions rise like waves. Anger, excitement, jealousy, fear, they peak and then they fall. But when you speak at the peak of emotion, you freeze that moment forever. You lock a temporary feeling into a permanent memory. If only you had waited, if only you had stayed quiet, the wave would have passed and peace would have returned on its own. Many people confuse silence with weakness because silence feels uncomfortable. When emotions are strong, the tongue wants release. Speaking feels like relief, but that relief is temporary. Regret is long-term. Silence demands strength because it asks you to sit with discomfort for a moment instead of creating pain for a lifetime. Think about arguments. In the heat of conflict, we don't want resolution. We want victory. We want to hurt back. We want to prove a point. And so we say things we don't fully mean. Later, when calm returns, we realize the cost. The relationship is wounded, trust is shaken, and suddenly winning the argument feels meaningless. Silence could have protected what words destroyed. There is also regret in oversharing. We tell our struggles to the wrong people. We reveal our plans too early. We expose our vulnerabilities to those who don't know how to handle them. At that moment, it feels harmless. Later, when those words are used against us or spread beyond our control, we wish we had stayed quiet. Silence would have kept our dignity intact. Words spoken cannot be edited. Life does not have a delete button. Silence is your pause button. It gives you time to ask a simple but powerful question. Will I regret this later? If the answer is even slightly uncertain, silence is the wiser choice. Some of the deepest regrets come from speaking without understanding. We assume intentions. We jump to conclusions. We react to half the story. Later, when the full truth appears, embarrassment and guilt follow. Silence allows clarity to arrive. It gives space for facts to replace assumptions. Regret also comes from trying to control how others see us. We talk too much to impress. We explain too much to be liked. We defend too much to be accepted. In the process, we lose authenticity. When you are quiet, you stop performing. You stop chasing approval. And you rarely regret being real. There is a quiet maturity in choosing silence, even when you are right. Not every correction is necessary. Not every mistake needs your comment. Not every misunderstanding requires your explanation. Sometimes, letting things pass saves you from unnecessary battles and emotional exhaustion. Later, you feel relief, not regret. Silence also saves you from regret with yourself. After speaking impulsively, there is often an inner disappointment. You tell yourself, I should have handled that better. That inner voice grows quieter when you practice restraint. You begin to trust yourself more because you know you won't sabotage your own peace. The strongest people are not those who always speak their mind. They are those who can control their mouth when their emotions are loud. Self-control is not about suppression, it is about self-respect. When you respect yourself, you don't let temporary feelings damage long-term peace. Time is the greatest judge of words. What feels justified today may feel foolish tomorrow. Silence ages well. Words don't always. Many people look back and think, if only I had stayed quiet. Very few look back and think, I regret not saying that unnecessary thing. In a world that rewards instant reactions, silence becomes a form of intelligence. It protects your relationships, your reputation, and your inner calm. It saves you from replaying moments in your head late at night, wishing you could go back and undo a sentence. So remember this, you may feel powerful when you speak in emotion, but you feel peaceful when you stay silent. Silence may feel difficult now, but regret is far more painful later. There is a strange habit most of us have. When someone speaks, we are not really listening, we are preparing our reply. Our mind is already forming opinions, defenses, judgments, and counter-arguments. In that process, we miss something very important. We miss the person. We miss their truth. We miss who they really are. Silence has a quiet power. When you stay quiet, people feel the space to speak freely. And when people speak freely, they reveal themselves, not intentionally, but naturally. Their values, insecurities, intentions, and characters slowly come to the surface. This is not manipulation. This is awareness. When you talk less, you observe more. You begin to notice patterns. You notice who speaks with consistency and who changes stories. You notice who listens and who only waits to talk. You notice who respects boundaries and who crosses them without hesitation. Words hide many things. Silence exposes them. Most people reveal themselves when they feel unchallenged. If you interrupt, argue, or correct, they become careful. They put on a mask. But when you simply listen, they lower their guard. They feel safe. And in that safety, their true nature appears. Silence becomes a mirror in which people unknowingly show you who they are. There is wisdom in letting others talk first. It gives you information without giving away your position. In conversations, those who speak first often reveal more than they realize, what they care about, what they fear, what they want, and sometimes what they are hiding. When you stay quiet, you collect understanding. When you speak too quickly, you give it away. Silence also protects you from being misread. The more you speak, the more opportunities there are for misunderstanding. People interpret words through their own emotions and experiences. But when you listen instead of react, you reduce confusion and increase clarity. You understand before being understood. Many conflicts grow not because of disagreement, but because nobody listened. Everyone was speaking. Nobody was hearing. Silence breaks this cycle. It slows the conversation down. It brings depth where there was noise. And often you realize that the issue was never as serious as it first appeared. People reveal their emotional maturity through how they talk. Some complain constantly. Some blame everyone else. Some play the victim. Some speak with gratitude and responsibility. You don't need to judge them, you just need to notice. Silence allows you to learn without confrontation. There is also great strength in emotional silence. When someone is trying to provoke you and you don't react, they reveal their intention. If their goal was connection, they adjust. If their goal was control, they become frustrated. Either way, you gain clarity without losing your peace. In relationships, silence teaches you more than arguments ever could. When you stop over explaining and over defending, you see how others respond. Do they try to understand, or do they try to dominate? Do they respect your quiet, or do they pressure you to speak? Their reaction to your silence tells you everything. Many people fear silence because silence feels like loss of control. But in reality, silence is control. It keeps you centered while the other person moves emotionally. It allows you to respond rather than react, and a response is always wiser than a reaction. Silence also helps you hear what is not being said. Tone, body language, pauses, these often communicate more than words. When you are not busy talking, your awareness sharpens. You sense discomfort, dishonesty, excitement, or sincerity without needing confirmation. Some of the smartest decisions in life come from listening quietly. Business deals, friendships, partnerships, even conflicts, those who listen first usually choose better. Not because they are smarter, but because they are informed. Information is power, and silence is how you gather it. When you stop trying to prove yourself, you start understanding others. This shift changes everything. Conversations become less about winning and more about learning. And learning protects you from repeating the same mistakes with the same kinds of people. Silence does not mean agreement. It means observation. It means you are allowing truth to reveal itself without interference. And truth always surfaces when given enough space. So remember this. When you speak, you repeat what you already know. When you stay silent, you learn what others are trying to show you. We live in a world where everyone wants to announce their next move. The moment an idea is born, it is shared. The moment a plan is formed, it is posted. The moment progress begins, it is broadcast. And yet, the same people wonder why things fall apart before they even begin. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. Not everyone clapping for you wants you to succeed. When you speak about your plans too early, you expose them to opinions, doubts, jealousy, and unnecessary energy. Some people will discourage you out of fear. Some will mock you out of insecurity. Some will subtly sabotage you because your growth reminds them of their own stagnation. Silence protects your vision from all of this. A plan is like a seed. If you dig it up every day to show people, it will never grow. It needs darkness. It needs time. It needs protection. Silence is that protection. When you keep your plans to yourself, they develop without interference. Your focus stays sharp because you are not distracted by reactions. There is also a psychological danger in talking too much about your goals. When you tell people what you plan to do, your brain receives a false sense of achievement. The appreciation and encouragement feel like progress, even when no real work has been done. Silence keeps you hungry. It keeps you working instead of talking. Many dreams die not because they were impossible, but because they were announced too soon. When something is fragile, it needs care, not attention. The early stages of growth are sensitive. Doubt enters easily. Silence shields you from external noise so you can listen to your own discipline. People don't need to know your next move. They only need to see the result. Results speak clearly and confidently. They require no explanation. When you let success do the talking, It carries more impact than any announcement ever could. Silence also prevents comparison. When you share your plans, you invite others to compare your journey with theirs. Comparison breeds insecurity and impatience. You begin to rush your process or question your pace. When you move quietly, you move at your own speed. Growth becomes personal, not performative. There is wisdom in letting people underestimate you. When expectations are low, pressure disappears. You are free to experiment, fail, learn, and improve without judgment. Silence gives you that freedom. Surprise becomes your advantage. Another truth many people ignore is this: advice is not always helpful. When you share plans, everyone becomes an expert. Conflicting opinions confuse you. You start doubting yourself. Silence keeps your direction clear. It allows you to seek guidance intentionally, not emotionally. Moving in silence is not about secrecy, it is about strategy. You are not hiding because you are afraid, you are quiet because you are focused. There is a big difference. Loud effort seeks validation, quiet effort seeks results. Some people speak about their goals to feel important. Others stay quiet because they are busy becoming important. The second group rarely explains themselves because they don't need to. Their work speaks louder than their words ever could. Silence also protects relationships. Not everyone needs to be involved in your journey. Oversharing creates expectations and pressure. When plans change, explanations become exhausting. Silence keeps things simple. You move, adapt, and grow without emotional debt. In a world addicted to attention, discipline looks like silence. It looks like showing up every day without announcing it. It looks like progress no one saw coming. And when the outcome finally appears, people call it luck, not realizing it was protected by quiet consistency. The strongest foundations are built quietly. The tallest buildings begin underground. The most powerful transformations happen away from the spotlight. Silence is where strength gathers before it is revealed. So remember this: announce your results, not your intentions. Move quietly, grow steadily, and let success introduce you. Most arguments don't start because the problem is big. They start because ego is loud. When someone provokes you, the natural instinct is to respond, to defend yourself, to prove your point, to show that you are not weak. In that moment, silence feels like surrender. But in reality, silence is strength disguised as calm. Arguments survive on attention. They need energy, emotion, and reaction to stay alive. The moment you stop feeding them, they begin to die. Silence starves conflict. Without response, there is nothing to fight against. Think about fire. Fire grows when it finds fuel. Take the fuel away, and the fire fades on its own. Arguments are the same. Words are fuel, reactions are oxygen. Silence removes both. Many people argue not to solve, but to dominate. They want to pull you into emotional chaos. When you stay quiet, you refuse to enter that chaos. This frustrates them, not because you are wrong, but because you are unavailable to their game. Silence also gives you control over your emotions. When you argue, your heartbeat rises, your mind narrows, and logic weakens. You say things you later regret. Silence keeps your nervous system calm. It protects your dignity when emotions are high. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every insult requires a reply. When you react to everything, you give others power over your emotional state. Silence takes that power back. There is a misconception that silence means agreement. It does not. Silence means you value peace more than proving a point. It means you are choosing long-term stability over short-term satisfaction. Some arguments end relationships. Others damage respect. Many create wounds that never fully heal. Silence prevents unnecessary damage. It creates space for emotions to settle and clarity to return. When you don't argue, people reveal their intention. If they wanted understanding, they soften. If they wanted control, they escalate. Either way, silence shows you who you are dealing with. Silence is also self-respect. You are saying, my peace is more important than this moment. That decision builds inner strength. Over time, people stop provoking you because they realize they cannot disturb you easily. There is also wisdom in timing. Sometimes silence is not permanent, it is strategic. You wait until emotions cool, until words can be chosen carefully. That silence saves conversations that arguing would destroy. Many regrets are born in arguments. Later, you replay the scene in your head, wishing you had spoken differently or not at all. Silence prevents those mental replays. It protects you from emotional exhaustion. The strongest people are not those who win arguments, but those who don't need to participate in them. They understand that peace is not found in proving who is right, but in knowing when to walk away. In a noisy world, calm becomes intimidating. Silence becomes authority. When you stop reacting, you start leading. So remember this, you don't win arguments by speaking louder. You win by knowing when silence is the strongest reply. There is a quiet mistake many sincere people make without realizing it. They talk too much, explain too much, justify too much, not because they are dishonest, but because they are afraid of being misunderstood. This fear slowly teaches them to over-explain. And without noticing, they begin to lose something very important, their value. When you explain yourself once, it is clarity. When you explain yourself twice, it is patience. But when you keep explaining again and again, it becomes insecurity. People may not say it out loud, but they sense it. The more you over-explain, the more you signal that you are seeking approval rather than standing in confidence. True confidence is quiet. It does not beg to be understood. It does not chase validation. It trusts that those who matter will understand, and those who don't were never meant to. Over-explaining usually comes from good intentions. You want to be fair. You want to avoid conflict. You want people to see your side. But life does not reward good intentions alone. It responds to energy. And the energy of over-explaining is uncertainty. Think about powerful people you respect. They don't give long justifications for their decisions. They state and they stand. Their words are limited but clear. That clarity creates authority, not volume. When you explain too much, you invite debate. Every extra sentence opens a door for doubt, argument, and judgment. Instead of strengthening your position, you weaken it. Silence after a clear statement is what gives it weight. Over-explaining also drains your emotional energy. You repeat yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. You try to convince those who enjoy misunderstanding you, and in the process, you become tired, frustrated, and resentful. Silence saves you from that exhaustion. There is also a loss of self-respect that comes from constant justification. Deep inside, you start feeling that your choices are not enough unless others approve. That belief slowly erodes your confidence. Silence helps you reconnect with your inner authority. Not everyone deserves an explanation. This is a hard truth. Some people ask questions not to understand, but to control. They want access, influence, or leverage. When you explain too much, you give it to them freely. Silence protects your boundaries. Clarity does not require length. A short, calm response followed by silence communicates strength. It tells others that you are grounded, that you trust your decision, that you are not shaken by opinions. Over-explaining also confuses people. When you give too many reasons, listeners don't know which one matters most. Silence after clarity allows the message to settle. Many people fear silence because they think it will be judged. But silence is rarely judged negatively. In fact, it often commands respect. People sense that you are not desperate to be understood. That energy is powerful. Silence after a decision also teaches others how to treat you. When you stop justifying yourself, people stop demanding explanations. Boundaries become visible without being spoken. There is peace in saying less. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop preparing defenses. You stop worrying about how you came across. Silence simplifies your inner world. You don't need to convince everyone. You don't need to explain every choice. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding. Sometimes letting people believe what they want is freedom. Silence does not mean confusion. It means closure. It means you are done explaining. And that finality carries strength. So remember this. When you speak less after being clear, your words gain weight. Confidence doesn't shout, it stands quietly. One of the biggest mistakes people make today is believing that closeness means full access. They think that if someone is friendly, curious, or present, they automatically deserve to know everything about their life. Slowly, without realizing it, they open doors that were meant to stay closed. And once those doors are open, it becomes very difficult to control what enters or what leaves. Not everyone who listens cares. Not everyone who asks is concerned. And not everyone who smiles is safe. Some people gather information not to support you, but to compare, judge, gossip, or gain advantage. Silence is how you protect yourself from this quiet danger. Your life is not an open book for public reading. It is a private journal meant for a few trusted hands. When you share everything with everyone, your experiences lose their sacredness. Your struggles become entertainment. Your growth becomes a topic of discussion. Silence keeps your life dignified. There is also emotional safety in selective sharing. When you speak about your wounds too freely, you reopen them again and again. Each reaction, each opinion, each careless response adds another layer of pain. Silence allows healing to happen without interference. Many people confuse attention with care. They talk about their problems because they feel heard for a moment. But attention fades quickly. What remains is vulnerability exposed to the wrong audience. Silence protects you from temporary comfort that leads to long-term discomfort. Not everyone knows how to hold your truth gently. Some people are curious but careless. Some are empathetic in words but insensitive in action. Silence helps you filter who deserves access to your inner world. There is power in mystery. When people don't know everything about you, they can't use it against you. Oversharing removes your leverage. Silence preserves it. Your plans, fears, finances, relationships, and emotional battles do not need commentary. When too many voices enter your life, clarity leaves. Silence keeps your path clear. People often regret what they shared, not what they kept private. The words spoken in trust that were later repeated. The secrets shared in comfort that became gossip. Silence would have prevented that regret. Privacy is not about hiding. It is about choosing. Choosing who earns access. Choosing who deserves vulnerability. Choosing who has proven loyalty through consistency, not curiosity. Silence also teaches others how to treat you. When you don't overshare, people approach you with respect. Boundaries become visible without explanation. You don't owe everyone your story. You don't need to justify your choices. You don't have to explain your pain. Silence is not cold, it is self-care. There is peace in keeping some parts of your life just for yourself. You become less dependent on validation and more connected to your own inner strength. When you protect your inner world, your outer world becomes calmer, fewer opinions, fewer misunderstandings, fewer emotional drains. Silence does not isolate you, it protects you. It allows deeper connections with fewer people instead of shallow connections with many. So remember this: access to your life is a privilege, not a right. Silence is how you guard what truly matters. One of the greatest skills a human being can develop is the ability to pause, not to react immediately, not to speak instantly, just to pause. That pause may look small from the outside, but inside it changes everything. It is the space where emotional control is born. Most of our problems are not caused by what happens to us, but by how we react to what happens to us. Emotions rise automatically. Anger, fear, excitement, hurt, these arrive without permission. But expression is a choice. Silence gives you back that choice. When emotions are high, intelligence goes low, the mind becomes narrow, the body prepares for attack or defense. In that state, words become weapons, not tools. Silence interrupts this pattern. It creates a gap between feeling and action, and in that gap, wisdom lives. Emotional control is not about suppressing feelings. It is about not letting feelings control you. Silence allows emotions to pass through without turning into damage. You feel everything, but you don't leak everything. Think about the moments you regret the most. Chances are they happened when emotions were intense and silence was absent. A sharp reply, a sarcastic comment, a heated message. At that moment, speaking felt justified. Later, silence would have felt smarter. Silence gives your nervous system time to settle. Your breath slows. Your heart rate comes down. Logic slowly returns. What felt urgent begins to feel manageable. And often, you realize that the situation did not require a response at all. Many people believe that expressing emotions immediately is healthy. But uncontrolled expression is not health, it is chaos. Emotional maturity is knowing when to express and when to contain. Silence is containment with awareness. When you learn to stay quiet during emotional storms, you stop adding fuel to situations that would otherwise escalate. Conflicts shrink, tension dissolves, others sense your calm and mirror it. Silence becomes emotional leadership. Silence also helps you understand your own emotions better. When you don't rush to speak, you start asking yourself important questions. Why am I feeling this way? Is this anger or is it hurt? Is this fear or is it insecurity? This self-awareness changes how you respond. People who lack emotional control often speak the most. They say whatever they feel, whenever they feel it, and then they live with the consequences. People with emotional control speak less, but live with fewer regrets. There is strength in not reacting. It shows you are not controlled by external triggers. That strength is felt, even if it is not announced. People begin to respect your calm. They stop pushing your buttons because the buttons no longer work. Silence also protects relationships. Emotional reactions often say things that are not meant but cannot be taken back. Silence gives love time to speak instead of ego. You don't lose your voice by staying silent, you refine it. When you finally speak, your words come from clarity, not chaos. They carry intention, not impulse. In a world that rewards quick reactions, the calm person stands out. Silence becomes rare and therefore powerful. It signals self-mastery. Emotional control is freedom. Freedom from regret. Freedom from unnecessary conflict. Freedom from being dragged into drama that does not deserve your energy. So remember this: you cannot control what you feel, but you can control what you release. Silence is the bridge between emotion and wisdom. Most people believe intelligence comes from having the right answers. But real intelligence often comes from asking the right questions and even more from knowing when to stay quiet long enough to hear the answers. Listening is not passive, it is an active, powerful skill, and silence is the doorway to it. When you speak, your mind is focused on expressing. When you stay silent, your mind is free to absorb. You notice tone, emotion, hesitation, confidence, and contradiction. These details are invisible to those who are busy talking. Silence sharpens perception. Listening is not just hearing words, it is understanding meaning. Many people hear sounds but miss intention. Silence allows you to listen beneath the surface. You begin to sense what people are not saying, what they are avoiding, and what matters most to them. Smart people are curious, and curiosity requires space. When you talk too much, there is no space for curiosity to grow. Silence creates that space. It invites information. There is a reason wise people ask fewer questions and listen longer. They are not trying to impress. They are trying to understand. Understanding gives you advantage in conversations, relationships, and decisions. When you listen more, people feel respected. They open up, they share honestly, and in doing so, they reveal valuable information. This is not manipulation, it is human nature. People trust those who listen. Silence also reduces misunderstanding. Many problems begin because someone felt unheard. When you listen fully, conflicts soften, tension reduces, solutions appear naturally. In learning, silence is essential. Students who listen deeply learn faster. Leaders who listen deeply lead better. Friends who listen deeply build stronger bonds. Silence is the common thread. Talking fills the room. Listening fills the mind. When you listen, you also learn about yourself. You notice your reactions. You see where your ego wants to interrupt. That awareness is growth. Silence allows humility. It reminds you that you don't know everything, and that is okay. This humility keeps the mind open and flexible. In negotiations, listening gives you leverage. The more the other person talks, the more you understand their needs and limits. Silence becomes strategy. Smart decisions come from complete information. Silence helps you gather it. People often underestimate the intelligent listener because they are quiet. But when they finally speak, their words carry depth. They are informed. They are precise. They are impactful. Listening also protects you from embarrassment. Many mistakes are avoided simply by hearing fully before responding. Silence helps you learn from everyone, even those you disagree with. Wisdom does not require agreement, it requires attention. In a noisy world, the listener stands out, not because they speak louder, but because they understand deeper. So remember this, you grow smarter every time you listen instead of speak. Silence is not empty, it is full of answers.